taking down the contents of the cards in hand.
Ooh, basically 3 scouts in Daniela's opening hand with Skill Drain.
And the Summoner's Art. Let's bring up Summoner's Art one more time.
He also has a Mystical Space Typhoon.
Yeah, it says add 1 Qliphort Scout to your hand.
Which is not as bad as everyone thinks, actually, now that he's drawn into a Mystical Space Typhoon. Now, Tour Guide from the Underworld coming down, more than likely going to be getting a Scam or a Seer due to the fact that there's 2...
Welcome back to the coverage of YCS Bochum 2015, the second European YCS of the year, and it's wrap-up time for me, to be honest, for the Swiss rounds.
Yes, we are currently on the top 32.
Yes, that means if you've never been to a large event like this one, or this is the first broadcast you've ever been watching about a Yu-Gi-Oh event, 1,111 players showed up yesterday. We had a few late enrollments, which made sure that we got this great number, which is very easy to memorize.
Yes.
And then these guys had to go through 8 rounds of Swiss yesterday. And since we're playing Swiss system, that means if they won the first round, they will have to go up against somebody else that won the first round.
Yeah.
And so on. So over the course of those 11 rounds, at the very top of the field, we only have the creme de la creme.
The top 32.
Yes.
32 of the best players in Europe.
And, well, it's quite the star-studded field in the top 32.
Definitely. I mean, let's have a look at our standings.
Yes, those are the final standings after 11 rounds. Leading the pack prior to the last round was Joshua Schmidt as the only undefeated player remaining in the field. I was actually going up to him on his table, asking him, hey, you actually playing? Because you don't want to suffer from the curse, which means you're going undefeated in the Swiss rounds and then you're immediately getting knocked out. And he was like, I'm going to beat the curse this weekend.
Ooh, oh, brave words.
Yes, very brave words. Might have been the last words he would have spoken. However, his opponent was able to overcome him. So we got no undefeated player remaining in the field. Everybody dropped at least 1 match. Most of them that are in the top 32 dropped 2.
Yes. Now looking at it, we've got a few names. We've got Federico Zappini, Jake Quincy,
yes,
Piranassi. We have a lot of really big names.
And also we have a couple of guys that you have seen on the stream before if you're heading to the past broadcast section. For example, Nino Zimmermann did in fact make it with his Mecha Phantom Beast deck.
Yes, he is currently 8th.
And just last round we had Lars Junginger who played Volcanic Heroes. He's also in the top 32, of course, that's why we featured that match. And then also Temis Gützis from Greece. Benedikt Junko has done well, especially at American events, despite the fact that he's German. We might have him later on the stream. And Marcello Barberi from Italy. I think the first Italian YCS winner, but I'm mixing things up, I guess. I'm not 100% sure. And also Merlin Schumacher, who we had in our very first match yesterday morning, is also in the top 32.
Yes.
So good selection, Rob. I gotta applaud you on that end. And who do we have now?
Currently, we have Chen Zhongheng.
Yes.
And we have Pitai Meyer.
And Chen is actually from China. He's studying in Germany. So for him, it was even more confusing than for half of these European players here, because he had like more of a language barrier than most
definitely.
of them.
He is playing Shaddoll Star Seraphs, so he is well prepared at the moment to be able to go up against what he's going to play against, which is Qliphort.
It feels like we're back like 1 year or something.
Yeah,
like
Qliphort versus Shaddoll.
Yeah, but well, it's still exciting in my book. It's the first time we're seeing Qli this weekend. And I know for a fact that Benedikt Jung is also playing Qli, so it's still a very good deck.
It is. I mean, it lost out 2 sacrifices, which means the search power was dampened quite a bit, but it's kind of started using things like Recreate and things like that, because Skill Drain is also gone as well, just basically bring back all of the combos that you used to be able to do quite easily.
And it's very good against some of the rogue decks in the field, because you can just summon or pendulum summon these monsters over and over again. And even if somebody has an answer the first time you bring them out, most of the time, the longer the game draws out, the higher your chances are of succeeding.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are playing Ceasefire now as well.
Yeah.
To try and get around Qliphort.
But let's take you to the table where these two guys are ready to sleeve up and go at it in the top 32 of YCS Bochum.
Now, here comes a Summoner's Art immediately from Peter.
Yes, and this is his hand with a disc. Another.
A Scout. Scout is paying 800. Gonna go fetch another card.
Yes, very good deal.
Yes.
Just last round we talked about those volcanics, paying life points all the time to gain advantage. It's kind of similar in Qli. You do want to pay life points because that Scout, such a powerful card. Let's bring it up for you guys. Normal monster, in fact, but not when it's sitting in the pendulum zone.
Which means that it's a perfect target for Summoner's Art. Now, he is playing Pot of Duality.
And he reveals a finish chain. That is a very shiny card. Looking at the deck lists, there were some interesting choices that you mentioned.
Yeah. He is currently running Crush Card Virus, which, although is something that is very, very playable in Shaddoll, we've not seen before this weekend.
Yeah.
Now,
did he just lock himself out of pendulum summoning with a second Scout?
he did, but I don't think it matters.
Yeah, this is something that we've seen in feature matches before, where the opponent, that was actually when Alpai was playing against Qli, the opponent plays 2 Scouts, and Alpai was perfectly happy with him adding cards to his hand. As long as he cannot pendulum summon, no chance for him to win the game.
Now, there's a big disc out at the moment. It's got plus 300 attack, so it's only on 2100. But if it gets destroyed, then it's going to be searching cards.
All right. As a mathematician for Chen.
Okay, and he does have an Effect Veiler in hand. Oh, and Recreate comes down. Recreate is when a level 4 lower normal monster is summoned. Its effects negate until the end of the turn, and if a special summon monster is level 5 or higher, you negate its effects until the end of the turn and banish it when it leaves the field.
Yeah, that's a very important part of that effect. So then there's a Raigeki to clear out that disc. But like you pointed out, this means searches going on.
So he's just going to got himself a Helix. And there's a poke.
From the man with the beard.
Yes.
Pitai Meyer now falling to 4,900 life points after those 2 Scout searches. Almost half of his life points already gone, but he doesn't mind. Chen put down a breakthrough skill, and these are the 3 cards he's still holding on to. And in
now, because of Recreate, and this is a bit of a different way of playing Qliphort now, because it negates level 4 monsters when they're normal summoned, that gives all of the Qliphorts their original attacks when they're summoned.
Yes. And not just until the end of the turn.
No, it's literally just
Forever.
forever now. So that card is live.
Yeah. So it's a little bit like a skill drain, but more stamped for the
For Qliphort, yes.
Qliphort, yeah. All right.
And it also really, really deals a harsh blow to your opponent as well.
All right. And you said that the Qli deck is not well positioned for this matchup. Is that correct?
Well, it does quite well, actually. I mean, it's not as powerful as it used to be, but Star Seraphs basically set up a lot of stuff for you. Now, he's playing the Scepter. That is going to set him up for his next turn. But unfortunately, down comes the Effect Veiler, and he doesn't get the search.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why many players that I asked about the Star Seraphs said, I don't think they're that good because hand traps are a thing again.
Now, he should have actually had his effect negated anyway because of Recreate, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember that there was some confusion with Recreate how exactly it's working, because it uses the chain, unlike Skill Drain. It's a trigger effect, and sometimes you can build the chain in a way that the effect still resolves. But
Okay, that's fair enough.
I'm not 100% certain if that was one of these occurrences, because I looked at the app and tried to bring up the information for you guys, and sometimes I'm missing what's happening on the field. And then the Twitch chat has fun.
Yes, the Switch does have fun. Now, Helix has been tributed there and destroyed the scout.
So he gets out of that lock.
Yep, and the Summoner's Art is going to go and fetch probably a Monolith. We're just going to let him draw more cards.
And yeah, there is the Monolith. So far, so good for Pitai. And he's setting up for a Pendulum Summon.
Not particularly with Monolith. Monolith is one of those cards that just lets you draw a lot of cards. Now, he is able to now Pendulum Summon all of his monsters back. They all have their original attack, I believe.
Yeah, no.
Although Recreate has to be a level 5 or higher monster when it's special summoned, I believe. So that's a poke. And then attacking for massive damage. I do believe that may actually be game.
Yeah, that might be game, which is interesting because Pitai was the one who suffered from attacks the whole time. And there's also, with the carrier in play, is that a little push as well?
Yep, that's, I believe, game.
And those 300 extra attack, also important to keep that in mind.
So Qliphort doing what it does best, which is just go boom and then win the game.
Yeah, you give me a window of opportunity.
I'm taking that.
Yeah.
That's happening.
I'm going to open it wide and jump through.
But that's the reason why when he was playing 2 scouts, he went to make sure that he had the Helix in hand.
Yeah,
so
something
he could
to
play
get
the Helix, tribute it, get rid of his own stuff, and just win at
Yeah.
that point.
So the opponent might be feeling secure with that double scout. In fact, it was all part of Pitai's playing.
Yeah.
So good setup from the German. Pitai is actually a 2 times runner-up of the national championship. Hasn't won it yet. Some people give him some comments for that.
Yeah.
But he's actually one of the nicest guys. And also, you can find him at most of the larger events.
Okay, so they're siding in now. In Peter Meyer's deck.
We got a rivalry of warlords. We haven't
Yes.
seen that one in a while.
Yes, yes. There we also have Full House. Soul Drain, which does help against Shaddoll.
Compulsory evacuation device.
Mm-hmm.
Also quite good to get rid of a construct, for example. And what do you make of that Mirror Force?
Mirror Force is a good card, and it's been getting better and better because people aren't expecting it.
And now, you guys, of course, absolutely up to date. Say Recreate doesn't negate optional trigger effects, and this is what we mentioned because it uses the chain. If the effect of the monster that you're summoning is also using the chain, then you can build it in a way that it doesn't negate it. This is what happened. Thank you very much for pointing that out, guys.
So in Chen's side deck, there's a Gauze. There's a couple of Gauze, actually. That would be interesting to see.
And those are really good against Shaddoll, I've been told. So maybe, is that for the mirror match, in your opinion? He's got a Necro Valley in the side deck as well. Defusion, Space Typhoons, Max C, Dark Hole, and Breakthrough Skill.
Okay. I mean, Breakthrough Skill really doesn't help in this situation.
Denko Seka?
Denko Seka kind of works, but although there is a very trap-heavy lineup in Peter's deck.
Although the cards that matter the most, like the Recreate that we just had,
Mystical Space Typhoon and Max C will be probably seeing some play.
Yeah, the Recreate, for example, you flip that as soon as possible, usually.
Yes.
So Denko Sega is not going to do much against that. All right. So both guys ready when it comes to side decking for the second game. Now the shuffling part with Peter on the right using one of these pile techniques. Very effective for your shuffling.
Yes, one of the best ways of shuffling.
Yeah, it sounds like such a trivial information when I'm saying that, but I've seen a lot of players dropping games because they don't shuffle properly.
Yeah, it's really, really bad to get clumping.
Yeah. And then they just drew into a bunch of cards they didn't want to draw into the first game. They end up in one big pile in the graveyard. They don't shuffle their deck properly, and they just dealt the same hand in the second game.
Yep, and we can see if that's Peter power shuffling Chen's deck also.
Yeah, he wants to make 100% sure that this pack of cards is randomized.
And he's shuffling it with the Magic 7.
All right.
Not quite sure why 7's the best number.
Yeah, there are even articles about that,
Yeah.
where people came up with random card distribution and things like that, and they came up with 7 as the magic number. All right. So that is that. And who's going to go first in the second game?
It depends. Qliphort likes getting cards together, and
Okay, we see Vanity's
that's the
Emptiness,
Shaddoll.
Fiendish Chain in Pitai's hand.
That's a stealth, a scout, and a warning.
A warning, yes.
Yeah, stealth now one of the best cards for Qliphort.
And why is that?
It's incredibly powerful. It bounces cards and you cannot respond to it. Which also means you can't respond to its summon, I believe? Depending on what it is that you're responding with, of course.
Right. So much text on these cards. There's a Foolish Burial for Chen. He's also got Mathematician in hand, Shaddoll Beast, Star Seraph Scepter, and the Denko Sekka. He did side into those Denko Sekkas. So he is a fan of that card going up against Qli. Now, and maybe if he can actually summon it before the opponent has a chance to flip the trap cards.
Yep, he probably wants to summon it this turn, although that isn't a fantastic play, because essentially you are just going to be able to get rid of it.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Those monsters are...
We've seen that yesterday, where Brian Graving was playing a Denko Sekka on his first turn with like no back up in any sort of any sort, and the Twitch chat was like, "This is not a good play," and he later explained, because he went on and won his round, that it was his best option out of a lot of bad options, because he was afraid he would get OTK'd the very next turn by the Tellarknight player.
Yeah.
And that was a very good argument. All right. So here's the Mathematician. And Falco we see in the graveyard that returns. And with that, with a Mathematician and Falco on the field, Chen passes play. Up to Pitai, and he's got a Scout, Stealth, Warning, Emptiness, and Fiendish Chain.
So, out comes the Scout, and he's going to start searching his deck. Let's see what he's got.
Very unfortunate for Chen that he didn't draw into the Mystical Space Typhoons.
That was Carrier. Yeah, there's a lot of cards that Peter's got there just to ruin Chen's day.
Yeah, and if you can shut down the Scout plays, you are having a way, way easier time against Qliphort, generally speaking. So we're missing one face-down card. It's definitely the Vanity's Emptiness, and possibly Fiendish Chain and a Solemn Warning. And that means, yeah,
Yep,
there we go. Peter is left with just Qliphort's Stealth in his hand.
And now Qliphort's Stealth's going to be able to come out next turn if he can make sure that Carrier doesn't disappear.
Yeah, and like you pointed out, Qliphort's Stealth really good. When it's tribute summoned, you can target one card on the field, return it to the hand, and the opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. This is the important part.
Now, does he let him go and get the Sovereignty is the question. He already does have one in hand. If he lets him get it, that's not going to be a good time. A Solemn Warning would be well timed.
He goes for the less expensive option with a Fiendish Chain.
Mm-hmm. Now, he does unfortunately now get to Sovereignty. And then Sovereignty. Although he can Solemn Warning that.
Yeah, Pitai is already checking his back row cards.
He probably should.
He's ready for this.
Oh, he could vanities. There it is. That also shuts it down. He's just kind of got to hope now that that's not a set Squamata, because a set Squamata would make things bad for him.
But he knows that it's a Falco,
Oh, yes, he does.
because it returned from the graveyard to the field.
That is Falco's effect.
And
Actually, Chen doesn't have anything he can do now. Looking at his hand there, he's got a Shaddoll Beast, a Scepter, a Denko Sekka, a Beast, a Fusion that he can't use, and a Sovereignty. So most of the cards in his hand are dead.
Pitai doesn't know that, and he certainly doesn't expect that with 6 cards in hand for Chen. So he pops his own Vanity's Emptiness by...
Carrier is returning that, and
yeah.
then...
Oh, right, he can just return it to the hand.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I think that is an A, to be honest. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I forgot that Stealth was either player as well. Kind of ridiculous, really. That's why it's one of the best cards for Clay. It's...
So he gets to reuse the Vanity's Emptiness. He also drew into yet another Floodgate, which is the skill drain.
And he has 2,800 attack.
Yeah, so Pitai Meyer's got an excellent lockdown here with that Solemn Warning still waiting in his back row.
So Sacrifice went and got a Qliphort Carrier, and then he's paid 800 to get a Monolith, that looks like. Yes, that's a Monolith. So he can play the Monolith and draw some more cards.
Yeah, so also the Vanity's Emptiness, of course, not locking himself out. He can just go for that special summon here, that Pendulum Summon. And this is basically a one-on-one what to do with Vanity's Emptiness.
Yeah.
Assemble your field, make sure you got something to pressure your opponent, and then you back it up with a Vanity's Emptiness. Flip it face up as soon as your opponent is trying to come back, and it's game over.
Okay, so he's drawn a card there. Fiendish Chain is gone.
And it's up to Chen. 7 cards in hand, and you said none of them can make the difference here.
No, well, Denko Sekka currently. He would need to flip that, and there's the second.
There is Denko Sekka, all right.
Oh, but Solemn Warning.
Solemn Warning.
Ooh.
This is also...
And that's game. There's nothing that he can do.
Well, Chen might not have realized that just yet, although... I guess
it comes pretty obvious.
Yeah,
you know that there's a Vanity's Emptiness there. You know you can't summon anything that's in your hand. And there's more than enough attack to defeat you there.
All right,
and
so
the card is gone.
Let's watch us with realization setting in. And Pitai seems to be aware of this game being over, despite the 6 cards in hand for Chen. And I mean, he gave up his normal summon for the turn, so he can only special summon.
And he can't special summon.
And yeah.
Shadow Fusion is going to be stopped by Vanity's Emptiness.
So absolutely excellent
Drop
execution.
And boom.
And this should force the handshake. Let's bring it up again. That Vanity's Emptiness. A card we didn't see that many times today. Chen is trying to buy himself some time with a Book of Moon. But you're saying the writing is on the wall.
Yes, the writing is on the wall. There is no way that he can come back from this. Especially because I believe that is another Stealth.
Yeah, Pitai, of course, able to search yet again with that Qliphort Scout. Thin out his deck some more. Find yet another attacker. And while he cannot special summon it, because Vanity's Emptiness is also affecting himself, he can simply tribute summon it.
And because they don't go to the graveyard, Vanity's Emptiness isn't available. And that's being popped back to hand, and that's the attack for game.
That is forcing the handshake. Excellent execution. 2-0 clean sweep for Pitai Meyer. The 2 times runner-up of the German national champion.
It's absolutely huge plays with the Qliphort.
Yeah, we have seen why the deck is still very much a viable contender. As you pointed out just now with that Vanity's Emptiness that stays on the field when you're tributing the Qli monsters makes such a big difference.
It's why it's ridiculous, because Qliphort, you don't mind normal summoning. In fact, most of your monsters you can normal summon and tribute summon. Pendulum summoning is just something that's nice.
It's just the icing on the cake, on a pretty big cake.
Yes,
that is the
on
Qliphort
a
deck.
huge cake, yes.
Yeah, and well, we gotta give it to Pitai Meyer. At first, it seemed like Shaddoll was also well positioned for this.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden just taking it back.
Yeah, and he's attacking from the well, the meta game really, from a very different angle. Qliphort, a few players went with Qliphort, around 40 or 50, if I'm not mistaken.
Thereabouts.
At day one, at the start of day one, and now 256 remaining.
Yeah.
That means if we're just crunching the normal numbers, there might be like 20 left in the field.
Yeah, there's very, very few.
Yeah, and now in the top 32, there's a very good chance that Pitai is actually the only one. No, actually, in fact, I know that Benedikt Jung is also playing it. So we got at least 2 Qliphort players, and one of them is in the top 16.
That's good. I'm happy to see Qliphort actually come back and do something, because it felt like, oh, Qliphort is the deck to play, and then all of a sudden it kind of just faded away and everybody stopped talking about it.
Falls off the radar.
Yeah, completely.
And not because it was playing stealth that cannot be found by the radar.
Yeah.
But also because the other decks are having quite a few tools to wreak havoc on it.
Yeah. Necros versus Qliphort. Qliphort can win. Yeah. Very, very easily and quickly.
What do you think about Pitai's build here? He's running the 3 Effect Veilers as the hand traps, 3 Pot of Duality. What do you think about that?
You need hand traps in this deck completely at the moment. Hand traps are one of the biggest things currently. You need to be able to start just negating your opponent's monsters completely. If Scepter hits the field and they can start special summoning everything, you have lost. So stopping that as soon as it starts is fantastic.
Right.
And sorry, what was the other card that you were asking about? The Pot of Duality.
Yes.
Now, as I said before, Qliphort can just normal summon all its monsters, so there's no reason for it to.
And it's so important to get your hands on the Scout. Also. And less and less decks are playing MSTs in the main deck. Or at least not 3 copies of it in the main deck.
No, it's because everybody's playing to beat Necros, and Necros doesn't run any back row.
Yeah. So and that is good for Qli, of course.
Yep.
Right. Anything else that you think we should mention? The 3 copies of Soul Transition, maybe?
Yeah, you can do. I mean, there's that, and there's Rivalry of Warlords, which a lot of people are using at the moment. There was that Pendulum card as well, which I have not heard of before.
Pendulum Impenetrable. Yeah, let's ask him about that.
Yeah, let's ask about that.
All right. So we got the first top 16 competitor. It's just 4 more wins for Pitai Meyer, and he's going to be the YCS winner for Bochum. We're going to talk to him in just a second. We'll just take a very, very short break. So we'll be back in roughly 2 minutes.
It's time to